The CEO of Twitter alternative Gab has spent the past few days using the official Gab Twitter account to say that he wants pornography regulated, stirring up a fresh conflict between the pretend traditionalist trad community and people who advocate for free speech, free association, and liberty in general. Before I get into the substance of what he said, I first want to address the overall idea of a business owner or CEO publicly taking a controversial moral stand. It's an objectively stupid thing to do from a business perspective, and for that reason I actually give him some credit. At least he has the balls to stand up and say what he believes. He's wrong, and this doesn't make me inclined to support him, but I certainly wouldn't call for a boycott either. The man put his moral standards ahead of his business. His willingness to personally stand up and be wrong puts him far ahead of the cowardly liars running the major media platforms. I also want to clarify that no one has an issue with porn being banned from Gab. It makes perfect sense to control the content on a platform catering to a particular niche. The issue is that he wants the government to censor people everywhere. On to the actual substance. Color me shocked that yet again another trad trender, faux free speech advocate has exposed himself. These people don't care about free speech or any other part of liberty. Liberty is not when you can say or do what you want. It's when other people can say or do things you don't want without anyone trying to forcibly stop them. Trad trenders only care about a false freedom where everyone is free to do as they wish as long as the trad community is okay with it. I want to draw a clear line between trad trenders and real traditionalist conservatives. While I can and do criticize any conservative, many of them do see value in actual liberty. Trad trenders do not. They are just as authoritarian as the progressives they rail against. They are not about partaking in tradition or extracting value from it. They are just about mindlessly opposing the damn degenerate liberals on everything and trying to own them. Real traditionalists want to be left the hell alone in their communities. Trad trenders want to enforce their specific idea of tradition on everyone. Another clear difference is that real traditionalist conservatives will acknowledge themselves as flawed and subject to the same degenerate human nature as everyone else. Trad trenders like to pretend they're morally superior and are trying to rescue everyone else from an unnatural state of degeneracy that the liberals have tricked them into. Porn is not just a free speech issue. It's a freedom of association issue and a property rights issue. You can't regulate pornography without regulating those things, and if you want to, you don't believe in liberty. I want to be clear here. I'm not advocating for porn. It's clear that the porn industry is incredibly damaging to women, and in fact deliberately exploitative, abusive, and destructive in a way that ruins people's lives. The porn industry is built around misleading, manipulating, and escalating gullible young women to entrap them in abusive situations, and then convincing them that they made all the choices on their own. It's evil as fuck. While porn consumption definitely has harmful effects on some people, I'm also confident that many of the purported effects are misattributed, overstated, or outright fabricated. It's largely anti-drug propaganda from the 1980s recycled in a modern context. The important point is, none of the supply or consumption side ethical issues justify regulation of porn. You don't have the right to stop people from harming themselves. I'm sure you all recognize it as bad when you see progressives trying to push nanny-state regulations on fat, sugar, vaping, or whatever else they may deem a vice. If we are going to make self-harm illegal, we are going to have to engage in all sorts of economic and recreational regulation covering everything from any potentially intoxicating or addictive substance all the way to activities like diving, caving, skiing, climbing, and my beloved mountain biking, and you can fuck off with that one. I'm not saying porn is good for you, but it is absurd to try to blame porn for people's ignorance and bad habits regarding sex and relationships. This is the same old doomsaying crap from the war on drugs and the crusades against heavy metal, rap, comic books, violent movies, and video games. Entertainment is not the source of ignorance. People are ignorant by default. Ignorance may leave you vulnerable to making bad assumptions based on entertainment, but the root problem is the ignorance. The same trad trenders who want to try to control porn, even though they know damn well that is impossible, want to leave people ignorant. They want to bring back this absurd fantasy of the pure and innocent adolescent. It's not based in reality. We've all been adolescents. We can all remember that you can't force an adolescent to stay a child, and you shouldn't try. We've seen the consequences when parents tried to force it, and how terribly that turned out. It sucks that your kids reach a point where all you can do is try to provide guidance as they transition into adulthood, but there is no avoiding this, no way to protect them from reality other than educating them about it and exposing them to it. The unkempt Coomer wasn't a poor innocent soul corrupted by pornography. He was sheltered from reality the same way trad trenders want to shelter everyone, and as a result, he has no understanding of the real world, self-control, or how to interact with other people. He's hopeless because of the idiotic babying that trad trenders want to enforce on everyone. Now, again as a point of clarity, I am not in favor of mandatory sex education. I'm not in favor of government education, period. I just want these trad boneheads to understand that you cannot shelter and isolate people, expect them to not watch porn, and then blame porn for their failure to understand how to interact with the opposite sex. The fault lies with shitty parenting. So that's my rant, maybe a little more animated than usual, but I really hate trad trenders. They mock progressives, but they're blind to how identical they are. Both groups see problems with human nature, and instead of acknowledging them and trying to conform to reality, both try to bend reality around an unrealistic fantasy they can't let go of. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and sub if you want to help me reach more people.